Hello everyone, and thank you for your attention. Many thanks to all the members of our community who will join later on. Today is 24th of March. Now it's 6 o'clock in the evening Moscow time, and this is our traditional community chat in which I will share some news that I have prepared for tomorrow's first update, some of it at least. And also, as always, I will be actively engaged with the chat, and I will try my best to be informative while commenting on the questions or the comments. And so that's been said. Let's start our community chat. Hopefully sound is good and there is no issues there. And I can see already few questions from Nikos. Of course, I will answer to these questions, but before more members of our community hopefully will join the stream, let me start with some news, dear friends. And as you know, as I reported in today's first update, today in Riyadh there is a meeting between there was a meeting at this point. I guess it's already finished, but there was a meeting between US and Russian delegations. Member of Russian delegation Karasin was asked by journalists. He is a senator, by the way, here in Russia, Grigory Karasin. And he was asked about these negotiations, and he said that, well, negotiations took quite long. There was a 3-hour talks, then break, and then talks resume. So therefore, sides are working to find some common ground, although he did not went into some specifics. And the press spokesman of the Russian president, Dmitry Peskov, also commented on the topic. And well, we have this report from Kommersant newspaper that Russia and United States discussed the Black Sea initiative in Riyadh today. This Black Sea initiative is about ceasefire, so that shipping basically would not be distracted as a result of due to some military activities. I mean, topic is interesting, obviously, but many of you probably will ask, wouldn't Russia will end up in some sort of trap? Because we all remember grain deal, isn't it? Would not this agreement, if it's reached, will have the same fate as a grain deal did? When ceasefire was used by Russian enemies, globalists, collective Western ruling class, and their puppets in Kiev to use navigation in the Black Sea to send to transfer as much weapons as possible and as fast as possible to a Kiev regime. And I have no answer on that. I'm afraid there is a quite high risk that if sides will reach agreement on a ceasefire in the Black Sea, Kiev regime will not follow through this agreement, as they already break existing agreement on ceasefire on strikes on energy facilities. On the very first day of this agreement, Kiev regime broke their deal, right, and conducted strikes on Russian energy facilities and continues to do so on daily basis. And therefore, I find it strange that Russian militaries did not yet receive order from Peskov, from Russian president, according to very same press spokesman Peskov, to open fire again on energy facility of their Kiev regime. As you can see, the French TASS news agency reported today that Peskov was asked about the topic if Russia will resume strikes on energy facilities of Kiev regime because of the actions of the Kiev regime. And the answer is no. Putin did not change their command not to hit power facilities or energy facilities, despite violations of the ceasefire by armed forces of Ukraine, which is, I mean, you know, I find it difficult to understand what the hell, right? Why Russia has such position, but yet again, I mean, not I am a decision maker, isn't it? So therefore, we have what we have, and I'm afraid if agreement on Black Sea ceasefire will be reached, Kiev regime will violate, and their NATO masters will violate that agreement also. Also, Interfax news agency reported that Russian military reported an attempt by the Ukrainian armed forces to attack an oil pumping station in Kuban, yet another violation of the energy ceasefire, so-called. And this pumping station, by the way, is operating in interests of Caspian Pipeline Consortium, as well as a Russian energy infrastructure. And this Caspian Pipeline Consortium mainly over about 90% of oil that this consortium is transiting through pipelines is Kazakhstani oil. It's not even Russian oil, by the way. It's a Kazakhstani oil, and their main shareholders in the Caspian Pipeline Consortium are U.S. energy companies, Shell, I believe, and Chevron, and another one, giants, U.S. energy giants, and those companies were already not happy and were trying to influence Washington, as far as I understand, due to previous strikes of the Kiev regime on this infrastructure. But seems like London, which is most likely behind these attacks, does not care no more. London or the globalists, because we all know that British aristocracy, British royal family, so-called, is one of the main driving forces of these globalists, right? So let's go through this news, sir. Anyways, Ukrainian army last night tried to attack the Kropotkinskaya oil pumping station in the Krasnodar territory, Krasnodar region. Drone was intercepted some 7 kilometers away from facility itself, so no damage was done to the facility, but this attempt itself to destroy this infrastructure clearly, demonstrates attitude of the Kiev regime and its globalist backers at this point. I wonder why Washington is saying nothing about these violations of energy ceasefire by Kiev regime. I mean, it's strange, isn't it? Probably you would agree with me that it is strange and also insulting to US, because Washington kind of tried to play role of mediator to achieve this energy ceasefire, isn't it? Although obviously Washington or US is in no way, shape or form can be seen by anybody as a mediator, because US is a side of this conflict and directly involved in this proxy war from the beginning, right? And was leading the charge. Now maybe the situation is changing, and London and Paris want to be, this leading force in this proxy war against us. But just a few months ago, it was US in this position, and still, unfortunately, US continues to transfer weapons to this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. Munition, intelligence sharing is taking place. So therefore, as I said, there is no way US can be seen as a mediator. But still, actions of the Kiev regime must be insulting for White House. But for whatever reason, no statements until now on the matter, which is strange, to say the least. Also, dear friends, Maria Zakharova, press spokesman or spokeswoman of the Russian Foreign Ministry, stated today that we should not expect some breakthroughs from talks between Russian and US delegations in Riyadh. And I have to agree with her. No one should expect any breakthroughs in regards to Russia-US relationships or the Ukrainian crisis, because situation is just too complicated, too complex, and obviously it will take quite a long time to really reach their point when through the escalation becomes reality. And I think we are very far away from that point for now. RIA Novosti reported today, based on Russian Defense Ministry, that Russian North Group of forces thwarted yet another attempt by Kiev regime's forces to break into Belgorod region. You know, dear friends, this morning I reported in the first update that according to some sources, including Russian sources, Kiev regime's forces managed to establish control over their settlement of Demidovka, this one here. Tiny village, basically, right next to a border. Although some other sources were reporting that this information is not correct and the Kiev regime's forces were neutralized by Russian armed forces and this settlement is under Russian control. Difficult to say what is the reality on the ground because I'm not there, obviously. But at best, for the Kiev regime, they might have partial control over their outskirts of the village or maybe some parts of it, let's say. But I think this settlement is at least disputed, or if we take for face value this report from North Group of Forces or from RIA Novosti, then this latest attempt of Kiev regime to break into Belgorod region and establish control over that settlement failed completely. And after losing significant number of armored vehicles and their manpower, Kiev regime's troops were withdrawn from the area. Yet again, difficult to know for sure. But in any case, I mean, you tell me, dear friends, what Kiev regime is trying to achieve with these attacks on the Belgorod region. It is so obvious that in no circumstances they be able to have a similar scale of to achieve similar scale of invasion as they did in the Kursk salient area in the last year. It's just not possible, right? Kiev regime don't even have forces to try it, even such a scale of operation. So therefore, I mean, it is really difficult to understand what Kiev regime wants to achieve while sending these armored groups one after another in these suicidal operations. And based on Russian Defense Ministry's reports, dear friends, Kiev regime already lost about 400 or 500 military personnel during these attempts to break into Belgorod region in directions of these villages. Where is it? Grafovka and Demidovka. And over 50 military equipment were destroyed, tanks, armored personnel carriers, mine clearing vehicles, and so on. I mean, it's really nonsensical stuff, but maybe that's what regimes do when they are in agony or something, because clearly these attacks makes no military sense whatsoever. Now they are just sacrificing more and more of their troops. Anyways, well, according to Defense Ministry, latest attempt to break into Belgorod region was thwarted. Enemy forces were destroyed there. According to some other sources, this settlement of Demidovka is still kind of disputed between the sides. In any ways, it's a borderline village. It's empty of residents for understandable reasons, and even if Kiev regime's forces that survived while crossing the border, managed to dig in somewhere in that settlement, around that settlement, I don't think they're gonna stay there for long. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that Denis Pushilin, head of DPR, Donetsk People's Republic, spoke about the situation in Chisov Yar, in quite optimistic terms. So city battles are taking place in ceasefire. I mean, street battles basically that are taking place in ceasefire are encouraging signals. According to Denis Pushilin, we see that very encouraging signals are being received in the city of ceasefire, where city battles are still ongoing. And I mean, this translation is killing me, man. It's just too bad. Basically, what Pushilin is saying that Russian troops are doing well in ceasefire, and it's not just Pushilin, but some other sources also are reporting that in a relatively short time, as I said a few days ago, maybe in a week or 2 weeks time, probably this operation to liberate ceasefire will be finalized, and the entire city will be under Russian control. And statements of Pushilin basically is in this is indirect, at least, or even direct confirmation of my reading of the big picture. Also, TASS news agency is reporting that Russian military expert Andrei Marochka, many of you are familiar with this name, I guess, stated that Ukrainian armed forces have become less likely to use ATACMS missiles due to their shortage. This headline and this information itself highlights this shortage of ATACMS missiles in hands of Kyiv regime. Although several weeks ago, Western propaganda outlets, Western so-called media was reporting that Kyiv regime don't really has any more ATACMS missiles whatsoever. So that report of the Western media probably was false, because Russian military expert is reporting that ATACMS strikes become more rare occasions, which means that these attacks still happens, right? So I guess either Trump's administration or Biden's administration before him delivered some additional these ATACMS missiles to this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, so that they still have certain number of these missiles to launch in direction of Russia, which is unfortunate. But Riyadh Novosti is also reporting that there was some failure, yet another failure in RUNET, in Russian segment of internet today, and dozens of services were unavailable. I guess yet another attack on Russian internet by Western secret services. It's lately this kind of activity on part of collective Western, did become like casual stuff at this point, right? But I did not notice any disturbances in internet, by the way. I mean, today was a quite busy day. I was using internet all day, and I did not notice any issues, but I guess some other services that are providing internet had some failures potentially, and that's from where this report is coming from. And well, that's being said, dear friends, let's go through some comments now and questions in the chat. Hopefully you find this news update part informative. Obviously, for tomorrow morning, I will use some of this news in tomorrow's first update, but obviously there will be some additional reports before now and the morning, and therefore, if you have watched this live stream, I recommend to watch tomorrow's update also, because there will be much more news there. And dear friends, please consider to join our tiny community on Patreon, where full videos are, full news updates. That will be great support for my work and this small media project of mine. If you can, of course. Although whenever I said please subscribe to my Patreon, I mean please become a sponsor of the project or Patreon. which means paid subscription, because right now I on my page on Patreon there is like almost twice more free subscribers that don't really have access to content, don't really help with the subscription to this project anyway, in any way, shape, or form, and it just makes confusion. That's all really. So free subscription is not really affects project in a positive way, or the free subscriber for that matter. I'm not just saying, because some people are confused about these free subscriptions. I don't really understand why Patreon come up with this idea, because after all, this platform was created initially to support creators, right, on internet, and to allow people to become sponsors, monthly subscribers, and help creators. But then they come up with this free subscription, which makes people confused, and it's a human characteristic, isn't it? If you open the page and you see that there is a paid subscription and there is a free subscription, many people might choose free subscription without realizing that this free subscription don't really gives you access to their page. Anyways, let's go through some questions. Nikos, as I already mentioned, have a few questions. Levan, I know recently that the Ukrainian drone attacks have been successful, especially in the Krasnodar region. What is the damage? Can it be repaired soon? And why are there no defenses? Well, unfortunately, these are long-range strikes that Kyiv regime, with the help of NATO, conducts is a daily occurrence. On every single day in news updates, I report about number of drones that were intercepted by Russian forces over their number of Russian regions. Well, just take a look at the map, dear friends. I mean, Russia is a biggest country in this world, isn't it? And no air defense system in this world is capable enough to cover entire territory. Even Israel, by the way, which is literally tiny country, especially compared to Russia, even Israel struggles to intercept all the aerial targets constantly, despite multi-billion investments into air defenses, right? So, what about Russia? Even though Russia has literally best air defense systems in this world, vastness of their country itself makes it almost impossible to intercept 100% of aerial targets. So there is air defense, but unfortunately, yet again, vastness of country makes it almost impossible to intercept 100% of targets. It's only Kyiv regime, by the way, that maybe not now, but in previous years and previous months was intercepting some 100 and 110% of aerial targets, in their dreams. But in reality, this kind of stuff is almost impossible. So that's why, unfortunately, time to time, some of the drones that Kyiv regime is launching with the assistance of NATO are managing to bypass air defense systems and strike residential areas or energy infrastructure and some other infrastructure. When it comes to strikes in southern Russia, I guess you are talking about oil depot that was hit recently, like a few days ago. There was a huge fire there, and these oil tanks exploded, and I'm not sure if fire is extinguished. There was serious damage there. According to reports that I see, there was a serious damage, and it will probably take quite a while before that infrastructure will be rebuilt. If that facility will be rebuilt at all, maybe owner of the facility will make decision to move business somewhere deep inside the Russian territory, towards Ural Mountains, for example, or beyond that. That's possibility, and I would not be surprised at all if many companies, energy companies here in Russia, will start moving their facilities eastwards, although that might create additional some issues with logistics, because you have to supply European part of Russia with their fuel, isn't it? With the energy, and railway, which is most effective way to transfer huge volumes of materials, may not keep up with demand if majority of these energy facilities, oil depots, refineries, and so on, will be moved towards Ural Mountains or beyond. So therefore, until some additional pipeline network is built to transfer oil and oil products from deep inside Russia towards European part, I guess companies will not really have much choices but to keep these energy facilities, at least some of them, in the European part, which is vulnerable for these long-range strikes from Kiev regime and NATO. So that's my answer, dear friends. It's damage on that oil facility was serious. I'm not sure, as I said, that fire was extinguished. Yesterday I read news that another oil tank burst into flames there, because it was damaged, and so I guess it will take a long time before that facility will be rebuilt, if that facility will be rebuilt. And when it comes to air defense systems, yet again, it's just technically impossible to cover entire territory of large country, especially large country, to intercept 100% of aerial targets. It's just impossible. That's why I think this idea of U.S. president to create some golden dome over the U.S. is nonsensical idea. In practical terms, such an air defense system cannot be created, right? But I was thinking that by pushing this narrative of Golden Dome, Trump might create additional channels of money transfer for military-industrial complex, so that Trump will keep them happy with their additional tens and potentially hundreds of billions that they will receive, and therefore they will not push White House towards more wars, because that's how U.S. military-industrial complex does makes money, isn't it? Through wars. And so to keep them happy and to ease the pressure, maybe Trump come up with or his team come up with this idea that we're gonna create this Golden Dome, and military-industrial complex is gonna receive huge orders and stuff. Okay, but in realistic terms, such stuff cannot be done. That's it, right? Anyways, let's go back to questions. Also, Nikos is asking, I hear a lot of complaints about these attacks. I see more and more Russian liberals trying to use this to upset their order. Can Putin and the government keep their order? Well, I don't know where you hear these complaints, Nikos. Here in Russia, I mean, society is united, right? And if in Greece some elements that run away from Russia are complaining, or if some elements that run from Russia, some Western assets, let's say, that run away from Russia are complaining somewhere in Europe or in US, I mean, we don't really care about that. It's not the issue, dear friend. I mean, society here is united, and that's it, really. I mean, there's not much really to talk about it. There might be this tiny group of people that are Western assets and run from here, run away from here. They might be very noisy, right? But they don't really represent nobody except themselves. That's it. No one here in Russia cares about what these psychos and they're traitors, basically, I have to say or think. I mean, who are they, really? Nobody's. That's it, man. And also question from Nikos. I understand that Putin thinks ahead of the war and wants stability by not taking over all of Ukraine. There are a lot of people who are angry and want him to do it. Can't he explain himself? I mean, yet again, dear friends, I mean, this is maybe in Greece, in Europe, that's how people think that Russia wants to take over entire Ukraine, because that's Western propaganda, right? That's the propaganda and main narrative of their globalists and their puppets in the governments of European states. But ask me, dear friend, and you are asking, do I want Russia to take control over the entire territory of Ukraine? No, hell no. Especially Western Ukraine. I mean, F it, man. Absolutely no. Russia already liberated 5 regions, right? And these 5 regions are part of Russia. Maybe not entirely, but it's only a matter of time. And Kherson, Zaporozhye, DPR, LPR regions will be completely liberated. Crimea is fully liberated, and there is a part of Russia for quite a while now, isn't it? And I think realistically speaking, if U.S. leadership or the forces that are behind Trump's administration, influential forces in U.S., if they are serious about de-escalating with Russia or moving U.S. away from this globalist controlled Europe, then they should, in that case, they should consider some serious talks with Russia, right? And they should accept that it's not just these 5 regions are the Russia, but also I think, as I spoke about the topic previously, I think there should be consideration of conducting referendums in all regions of this so-called Ukraine. Once good enough ground is created for ending of their military phase of their hostilities, right? After that, what can be done is, and this have to be talked about before final ceasefire, right? So once ceasefire is reached, there should be referendums, by the way, all over this so-called Ukraine. And I'm quite sure, and people should have a say, right? People that live there. In the Kharkov region, in the Dnipropetrovsk region, in Nikolaev region, Odessa region, Poltava, Sumy, Chernigov, all over, right? Including western parts of Ukraine, by the way. There should be referendums, and I'm quite sure Russian delegation will mention this topic during the negotiations. Let's see how far these talks will just go, For a reason, after all, Maria Zakharova said today that, we should be cautious when it comes to these talks, and no one should expect some breakthroughs, because it's a process, right? A process, and it will take long. It's a difficult process, and still it seems like U.S. administration not yet fully on board with the idea that collective West lost this proxy war, and it is better for U.S. to move away now from this conflict as fast as possible. Seems like Trump's administration, for whatever reason, to save the face of the U.S. or whatever, still wants to act tough with Russia. They are sending weapons, sharing intelligence, and while all this stuff is happening, how should one expect some serious progress in negotiations? I don't know. But anyways, one day we will be there, right? Because all conflicts finally are ending through diplomatic means, through political means. And once ceasefire is in place, referendum should take place, and people who should have say in all these regions of this so-called Ukraine. And I'm quite sure all regions outside of the Western Ukraine, or majority of the regions outside of Western Ukraine will vote to leave this Bolsheviks creation Ukraine and join Russia. I'm 100% convinced in that. And if that is the case, then people's voices should be respected, and Russia should accept these new regions into Russian Federation. That's how I see, by the way, situation is developing, right? And when it comes to, but yet again, through diplomatic means, right, to political means, there should be elections there in any way, right? But when it comes to Western Ukraine, even if Western Ukraine, by the way, will vote to join Russia, Moscow should say no. No, just stay away. We don't need that. Russia don't need no Western Ukraine. Russia needs to secure Russian world, right? People that see themselves as a part of Russian world. And this is historical territories of Russia I'm talking about. Western Ukraine is a different story. It used to be part of Poland, or Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, even Bulgaria might have some claims, by the way, on the parts of Western Ukraine. So therefore, let those NATO member states deal with the West, right? And the Ukrainian fascists and the Nazis and the terrorists, for whom Western Ukraine is a basically birthplace of this Sikh ideology, right? So that's my answer to your question, dear friends. Putin don't have to explain nothing at this point. Some people might be disappointed that more stronger actions were not used by Russia. Some people may be upset that Russia did not use there already, for example, nuclear weapons and that kind of stuff. Yes, I mean, people, there's 150 million of us here, right? About 150 million. And everyone has its own opinion, but in general, society is united, and there is no friction inside society, right? We are united, and as long as we are engaged in this proxy war that West is conducting against us, even though we can be critical of some actions of the government or some policies of the government, but this criticism is first of all coming from good place, and second of all, it's also sort of mild, because yet again we are, by the way, engaged in a war, right? Entire collective West is waging war against us, so there is no time now for some frictions inside the society. We have to be united, despite our different takes on some topics. We have to be united. I mean, that's how it is. We don't really have a choice in this regard, right? And we are united. So that's my answer, dear friend. Putin feels comfortable. I mean, his approval rating is above 70%. I cannot remember when last time his approval rating was below 70%. So these numbers say something, and these numbers coming from CIOM, for example, organization that recognized here in Russia as a foreign agent, right? It's financed from the West, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember reading some articles that CIOM was either recognized as a foreign agent, or there was some talks about it, but this is not pro-Kremlin institution. That's what I want to say. And even according to their data, Putin's approval rating is above 70%, at least, right? So what we are talking about. Let's go through some more news. Once again, dear friends, thank you all for participating in a stream. And as I always ask her, if you want to, your comment to be commented, or your question, please use capital letters or capital Q up front of a sentence so that I will notice it easier. Nidish Kumar is here. Hello, Nidish. And the question is that, Levan, why is Trump so aggressive at South Africa? Is it really concern of white farmers getting killed, or just because of case against Israel at ICC? Well, it could be both. And I guess there is some more reasonings behind it. One should keep in mind that Elon Musk originally is from South Africa, right? And probably he has some connections still in South Africa with certain influential groups there that are not happy with their current government, and maybe Elon Musk is using his influence in the White House to disrupt relationships between US and South Africa. But that's one reason. Maybe I cannot know for sure, but that's can be the reason. Second is obviously South Africa's strict position in regards to Israeli actions. South Africa initiated, isn't it, this case in ICC against Israel, and US as a main backer of this Zionist movement, or one of the main backers of the Zionist movement, and modern Israel is upset about it, or the influential forces in US. So that's second reason. And thirdly, who knows, maybe some groups in US and in inner circle of the Trump really care about some ethnico-racial tensions inside South Africa. But I mean, based on a record of Trump's administration during their first, for example, during the Trump's first term, I mean, hardly anybody can say that Trump really cares about any race or any ethnic group. I mean, he was calling entire countries, by the way, entire nations, some words. We all remember that, isn't it? So does it looks like action of someone that really cares about human life in general? Let's be real. I mean, I don't think he cares about South Africans, white or black. I mean, there must be some other interests. And one should also keep in mind that South Africa is one of the richest countries, by the way, in this world when it comes to some resources, and not just diamonds, but many other things, right? And we already see how aggressive these forces that are now ruling in US are, really, even towards their so-called allies. I mean, Trump and his team is openly attacking Denmark, right, and want to take over Greenland. They are openly attacking Canada, by the way, and want to establish control over the Canada. I mean, should anybody be surprised that they are attacking Panama? I mean, no, right? And so therefore, I guess some economical, financial, material interests are probably behind this tension between the US and South Africa. And tensions are really high, by the way. South African ambassador was forced to flee US, I believe, right? And the reasoning was that he made some statements that White House didn't like her. I mean, okay, maybe, but I mean, to destroy relationships this much with another major country, by the way, not just in African continent, but in general, that's quite something, isn't it? But but I think it's not about humanitarianism of the Trump's administration. It's about money and influence, right? Money, some resources that South Africa can offer, and geopolitics. That's what it is, I believe. Also, dear friends, Sorry if I miss your questions, dear friends. So Nidish Kumar is also commenting, Levan, what's the difference between Ukrainian Orthodoxy and Russian Orthodoxy? Well, there is no such a thing as a Ukrainian Orthodoxy. They created these are neo-Nazi elements, by the way, with active support of West, UK first of all. UK was and US also, by the way, very much involved to attack Ukraine's Orthodox Church of Russian Patriarchate, right? Украинская православная церковь Российского Патриархата. That's how in Russian is said, right? And they did, by the way. They created some fake church. They call it an Orthodox Church, Ukraine's Orthodox Church, which was unfortunately recognized by Greek Orthodox Church, if I remember correctly, and Constantinople Orthodox, Patriarch of Constantinople, right? Which is shame, by the way. I mean, they should not do this kind of stuff, but no other Orthodox churches recognize this nonsense that Western secret services, together with the Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists, created. And once they created this fake Orthodox church, which is not a church, but we cannot call it a church, by the way. It's they are committing unforgivable sin, right? So these groups that created this nonsense start attacking true Orthodox Church, right? And unfortunately, many churches were burned down, and from many churches, priests were forced out, and those churches now being, occupied by these criminals. Basically, that's what they are. They are not Orthodox Church in any shape or form, by the way. They are just criminals, right? And that's it. So there is no difference, by the way. There is only one church, Orthodox Church in Ukraine, legit one. Украинская православная церковь Русского Патриархата и Российского Патриархата, right? And that's it. There is no more Orthodox churches there. And this is canonic church. That's it. End of story. Whatever CIA, MI6, and Ukrainian Nazis and fascists created, it's not a church. It's just a criminal organization. So I cannot make no comparisons, by the way, there. And Georgian Orthodox Church. I'm a part of Georgian Orthodox Church, right? I'm Orthodox myself, and Georgian Orthodox Church stands with the Russian Orthodox Church on that, and with this canonic Ukrainian Orthodox Church of Russian Patriarchy, because it's a right way to go. And all the other churches, by the way, I believe vast majority of Orthodox churches in this world are on our side, and just Greek Orthodox Church and this Constantinople Patriarch recognize that criminal organization in Ukraine as a church, which is sad. Which is a sad story. This decision definitely will have some negative impact on future relationships between Russian Orthodox Church, Georgian Orthodox Church, other Orthodox churches, and the Greek Orthodox Church or the Constantinople Patriarchy. But, it's their decision. So they will have to face consequences. But they are wrong, by the way. No one gives them a right to act like that. They try to bring chaos inside their Orthodox Christianity. This is unforgivable, what they did, man. Absolutely. And when it comes to canonic Orthodox churches, by the way, there is no difference between us. Much difference. I mean, there are some minor differences. For about Greek Orthodox Christians are celebrating Christmas on 25th of December, and we celebrate on 7th of January. For example, there are some differences, but in general, all Orthodox churches canonical Orthodox churches are sister churches, and I'm welcomed in being Georgian Orthodox Christian. I'm welcomed in Russian Orthodox Church, in Serbian Orthodox Church, Bulgarian Orthodox Church, in every other Orthodox Church, by the way, even in Greece, even in Greek Orthodox Church, right? All the politics of the Greek Orthodox Church is somewhat provocative, to say the least. That's for sure, unfortunately. But I guess that's how severe this influence of Western secret services and Western these globalists and their puppets is there in Greece. David King is asking, how can Russia trust USA? They always lie. Well, we are talking about obviously U.S. political class. Me personally, whenever I'm critical of some policies of some countries, I'm critical of political class. I never I rarely talk about people, right? Because usually people don't really ask about anything in reality. So when it comes to trust to U.S. political class, there is no trust, by the way. We cannot trust U.S. political class or political class in any other Western country. We just can't. There is no trust whatsoever, none, right? And that's why many people here in Russia are skeptical and about current talks between Moscow and U.S. Many people are asking questions, but yet again, myself included, by the way, right? But yet again, let's give a chance to the negotiations, right? Because as I said, it's not about trust. It's about creating some mechanisms that will be put in place to make sure that if any agreement is reached between Washington and Moscow, this agreement will be honored then by Washington, not just for a day or two or a week, but either forever or in the long terms, right? And even in that case, I mean, where is the guarantees, man? It's a difficult question. It's a difficult question. We just have no option but to deal with these so-called elites in the West, right? We just have to. I mean, there is no options there, isn't it? And there are some points when talk is necessary, negotiations are necessary, and we are at that point, I guess now. But I don't think anybody here in Russia really trusts elites in the West, in US or in Europe. No. If any agreement is reached, let's come up with some mechanisms that will create some additional guarantees that these agreements will be honored, or without it, these talks really makes no sense whatsoever, because no agreement will be honored by other side. So it's not about trust. No one trusts Western ruling class, by the way, because they cannot be trusted. They just simply cannot be trusted now or maybe even ever. But definitely at least for decades to come. You will struggle to find any politician here in Russia or any citizen that will say that he or she trusts Western so-called elites. It cannot be. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, does Russia intercept drones with a soft kill or is it always hard kills? No, it's a soft kills also. I mean, radio electronic warfare is neutralizing quite a lot of enemy drones. Just recently, isn't it? Like last week, I believe I posted video on my Telegram channel and on Twitter X of exactly that soft kill when you can see on the video this Ukrainian drone is flying and then suddenly it just drops without kinetic impact on it, radio electronic warfare just shut down its operational program, communication, and that's it. Drone just fell down. So in many cases, radio electronic warfare does its job, and even Western military experts are acknowledging that in this segment, in radio electronic warfare, Russia is way ahead of many countries in this world, maybe even ahead of US, and most likely it is. Exactly, this was said by just recently, a few days ago, by a head of academy, US private military company, which was Blackwater previously. Then it was kind of reorganized in this new form. It's called Academy now, if I'm not mistaken. So head of Blackwater is more famous, isn't it? For all the bad reasons, all the wrong reasons, but still. So head of that academy, that Blackwater PMC, stated that according to his knowledge, Russia is top player when it comes to radio electronic warfare. So yes, it's not just a kinetic strikes, but it's soft influence also, radio electronic warfare. Daniela Modus is here. Hello, Daniela. And Daniela is commenting, yes, they are diverting 8% of military budget to their Golden Dome. So, I mean, it's as I said, maybe this Golden Dome idea is just an attempt on part of Trump's administration to keep military-industrial complex happy, because, no air defense system, it will cost so much, by the way, if we just think about it. I mean, US is like third largest country in this world, isn't it? After Russia and Canada. And it's huge, it's massive, isn't it? It's like 7 or 8 time zones, right? We have 11 time zones, I believe, here in Russia. In US, they have some like 7 or 8 time zones. It's a massive country from ocean to ocean, and to, keep all this territory secure from aerial attacks. I mean, what kind of air defense systems you have to create? How many launchers? How many radars? How many people gonna operate with this system, right? And maintain these systems. Okay, one may say AI may take care of it. First of all, it's dangerous to, be rely on AI that much, right? Artificial intelligence that much. But to maintain all this equipment, you will need the hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions of people, right? It's just not realistic, absolutely not realistic. From technical standpoint, this cannot be done. US is just too big, right, for this. And therefore, when I was thinking about this Golden Dome, I come up with only explanation to myself that probably this is just a new channel being created to flood the military-industrial complex with additional hundreds of billions of dollars of the taxpayers, or the trillions of dollars. And that's it. And while a military-industrial complex is kept happy, maybe they will just no longer pressurize, or no longer press White House to start more and more wars. Maybe that is the idea behind this project. And also, I guess this F-47 topic that Trump presented like a few days ago can be seen as somewhat similar stuff, because contract was given to Boeing. I mean, that's an invitation for disaster, isn't it? Boeing nowadays, they cannot build civilian planes properly. I mean, how they're gonna build military planes, by the way? But this program of F-47 will cost, if F-35, so-called fifth generation plane program costs already cost 1.5 trillion or something, and will cost even more in upcoming 2 decades for maintenance work and all that stuff. Then F-47 will be like at least twice more expensive, I guess, right? So it's a purely, this channel to just flood military industrial complex with the money, and that's about it. US has to change. I mean, US is in deep trouble, isn't it? US economy is in deep trouble because of this immense dependence on military industrial complex. This is not normal, man. What is happening there? But Nidish Kumar is commenting, taking Odessa is must. Yes, I believe from Kharkov to Odessa, at least, by the way, from Kharkov to Odessa, all that territory will join Russia, either after Russia will liberate these territories, if US will not back down, and if Western ruling class will not back down, then we will just continue, right? And eventually we will liberate all the territories that needs to be liberated. We will just leave Western Ukraine, so that let Poland and other NATO member states deal with that, right? But rest will be liberated one way or another, but that's inevitable, right? If collective West will not back down, US first of all. But if US will and Western ruling class will realize that prolongation of this conflict is ever more damaging for them and their stance on geopolitical map, then, as I already said, by the way, I mean, it's not just me, but Russian president said, isn't it, in 2024, during the meeting with the leadership of foreign ministry, that meaningful talks to be gone. There is just certain steps that Kyiv regime has to take. One is, and first and foremost, is to withdraw all the forces of the Kyiv regime from Russian regions, new Russian regions, Kherson, Zaporozhye, DPR, LPR. And then there have to be understanding in a place that these regions will be recognized as a Russian territory, right? I believe topic of compensations has to be addressed, and the US and collective West will have to pay compensations to Russia big time, and they will. I mean, it's just inevitable. They will. It may not become public knowledge, this information, but they will. I mean, that's how it's going to be, right? They might pay compensation with their investments or with something, but they will. Because there is no way any government here in Russia will ever forgive this hostility that US demonstrated against us or the other NATO member states, right? So, eventually we understand, eventually hostilities has to end, but to continue dialogue, they have to face the consequences, right? And they will pay. They will pay one way or another, but they will. And once peace is reached, once agreement is reached, and there is a end of military phase of their operation, then referendums. By the way, that's the best way to go, isn't it? Best way to go, under UN monitoring. Let's say, let's conduct referendums all over the so-called Ukraine. Kharkov region, Dnipropetrovsk, Nikolaev, Odessa, Sumy, Chernigov, Poltava, all of it. And let's see what people have to say. And let's respect people's opinion. That's it. And I'm 100% convinced, by the way, that residents, vast majority of residents in all the regions that I mentioned will vote to get rid of this so-called Ukraine, this nonsensical creation of Bolsheviks, and to join Russia. So I agree with you, dear friend. Odessa will be liberated and will be part of Russia, as it should, because it's a Russian city. You know, it was built by Russia, right? Russian Empire. Number 6 is commenting, highly one, my idea, bond rights learned in World War II, they can never win a war against other countries, but during a war, they are free to ethnically cleanse their fatherland. I'm not sure I did understand your comment, but those bond rights gonna be neutralized. That's what I can tell you. Those bond rights gonna be neutralized for sure. There is no other way around it. Russia is neutralizing them, and eventually, when this conflict will end and this so-called Ukraine will be divided and western parts will end up under control of NATO member states, Poland, for example, or Hungary, or Romania, those countries will have to finish off the Nazis and the fascists that will run away from territories that will be liberated by Russia. That's how it is. David King is commenting, would Ukraine go to war with Europe? No. How? Ukraine will no longer, shortly, in terms of history, I mean, all these years, I mean, several years or even several decades, it's just a short period of time, isn't it? So, shortly, most likely there will be no more Ukraine on the political map, or only Kiev and their few surrounding regions, and even then only in a sphere of Russian influence. So therefore, Ukraine will never go to war with Europe. Western Ukraine, by the way, one should understand that this Western Ukraine is a stronghold, by the way, of the Ukrainian Nazism and the fascism and the terrorism. I mean, that's birthplace of that ideology, right? And majority of these Nazis are from the Western Ukraine. And as Russian forces continue to liberate more and more territories, and when Kiev regime's forces will finally collapse all along the front line, you think where these Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists gonna run? They're gonna run into Western Ukraine, which, as far as I understand, after Ukraine will be divided, will end up under control of NATO, that Western Ukraine, right? And so Poland and Hungary and Romania will have no option but to deal with them. They will have to deal with them, and there will be Ukrainian terrorism in Europe. Not that Ukraine will go to war with Europe, but these Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists will wage a war of terror on European states. First of all, ones that will will eventually claim parts of the Western Ukraine. All the other European countries not going to be much more safer too. I said this a very long time, that Western ruling class created a monster that will bite back on their masters and hard. And Europe will experience that in short time. It's just inevitable, isn't it? You don't have to be genius to understand, realize this picture. I mean, to read this picture this way. I mean, it's just inevitable. What else one should expect from those Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists? And unfortunately, they have means, isn't it? They have training that NATO provided. They have weapons that NATO provided, including long-range weapons, including air defense systems, anti-tank missiles, portable air defense systems, by the way, Stingers. Who knows where those Stingers are that US and some other countries were transferring to Kiev regime, and who knows those neo-Nazis, how many of those Stingers or anti-tank missiles those neo-Nazis already stolen and they're hidden somewhere, maybe even on territory of EU. Does anybody knows? because I guess people that are leading these Ukrainian Nazis, they know what is going to happen. They know that eventually they will be forced to back into Western Ukraine, right? And I don't think they will agree to lose control over the Western Ukraine also to Poles or to Hungarians or to Romanians, and they will fight. Alexander G is commenting, Ukraine is still a formidable force. They can't defeat Russia, but they 100% could defeat EU. I mean, Ukrainian armed forces are more capable than any other armed forces in Europe. I mean, among EU member states, that's for sure. That's for sure. I mean, after all, they have battle experience, right? They are battle hardened, many units, you know, and therefore, if it comes to it, I mean, if this is just a hypothetical discussion, then I think in NATO there is only two armies that potentially can go toe to toe with the Ukrainian armed forces. One is US armed forces can do this, but they will, you know, but it would not be easy for sure. And another is Turkey, and Turkish armed forces will also struggle big time. But you know, by numbers, by equipment, technology capabilities, these two armies definitely are capable of to take you know, one-on-one on this armed forces of Kyiv regime. But no other NATO member state is capable of that. I will agree on that. It's true. I mean, can you imagine British armed forces against Kyiv regime's forces that 3 years are fighting with Russia? Kyiv regime's armed forces will eat British armed forces in breakfast. That's it, man. Let's be real. And one should always keep in mind, dear friends, that these people, this is a civil war, as I said many times before, isn't it? Civil war inside the Russian world. And people in the Russian world always knew how to fight. And those people that are forcefully mobilized or ideologized, brainwashed by Western propaganda and Kyiv regime, those people, I mean, we are the same, by the way. I mean, in many ways, you know, my parents' generation and their parents' generation and my grandfather's generation and their grandfather's generation, we were one people, right? So they know how to fight because we know how to fight. You know? And you see that on the battlefield, isn't it? And as many people, historians included, saying, I mean, civil war is the most terrible war that can happen because it's buzzers, you know, it's one people that is killing each other. And that's why I'm saying, man, we can never ever forgive Western ruling class for what they did, you know. And one day they will pay heavily for their crimes. I hope so, at least. Nikos is commenting, I'm asking Levant because I care. I see Telegram channels with their very angry Russians. I also see an increase of Russian liberals in my feed, like Natasha Adventures. She was founded by USAID. I mean, Nikos, it's all okay. I mean, I did not say nothing, and sorry if some members of our community were not nice in response. Please, dear friends, we should always be, you know, friendly to each other. We may disagree with each other. It's all okay, right? But we should always be, you know, respectful and kind to each other, as we traditionally are. By the way, our community is best community that there is out there, right? And I'm proud member of this community. And I can understand from where you're coming from, dear friend. Maybe you pay too much attention to these individuals that don't really represent uh, any significant part of this society here. I mean, as I am not representing, I represent myself, right? I never ever said that I represent these people or that people. No, I represent my people, and there is some points, some topics when I think significant number of society probably is on same page with me. But yet again, it's just I think I always articulate that it's my opinion, and my opinion can be correct or can be wrong, right? But I never pretend to present to be representative of anybody but myself. But unfortunately, these so-called liberals and that kind of personalities that were funded by some Western funds or had some connections with these Western institutions, those people, they are maybe too narcissistic, and or maybe they think too much about themselves. Maybe they take themselves too seriously. There is something wrong with them, for sure. Just like months ago or something, there was demonstrations in Germany, by the way. I cannot tell you in which it was Berlin, or I guess it was Berlin, if I remember correctly. And all these so-called liberals that ran away from Russia were, planning, and on internet they heard this so much noise that we're gonna march and we're gonna demonstrate and so on. And you think how many people were there? I saw videos, by the way. Couple of thousand, and one of the leaders of that gathering, and I say couple of thousand as maximum, by the way, maybe a couple of hundreds, right? And who was presented to this crowd as some sort of leader? Wife of Navalny, Yulia Navalny, or whatever her name is. Few hundred, maximum few thousand. And this Yulia Navalny, in her interviews, acting like she represents Russian people or Russian society or something. I mean, she don't represent none of us, right? She represents nobody except herself. And so if you pay too much attention to people like that, man, you might get the impression that, wow, I mean, look how much noise is there. But trust me, man, I live here. I live in Moscow. And none of them, nobody, literally nobody that I know, and I know quite a number of people, right? None of them really cares about these individuals, these so-called liberals or whatever they are. I mean, we just don't think about it. And I would not remember about their existence if you did not ask question. I mean, that's how it is really, On internet, I mean, technologies, modern technologies, by the way, create false impressions, right? Those are some of those so-called liberals. Probably they have some channels on Instagram or YouTube or elsewhere. And most likely, by the way, whenever they put something, whenever they upload something or publish something, there is hundreds of thousands of views or their likes or something like that, isn't it? And one should ask a question: who is watching this stuff, man, and who is liking this stuff? Maybe it's an algorithm. Maybe it's just algorithm, fake numbers. Because it is algorithm and fake numbers, by the way. That's what it is. So those liberals are traitors. They've been seen here as traitors, and they have they're nobodies. Literally nobodies, man. Right? They don't even have guts to say that they only represent themselves. I mean, they are all fake. That's all it is, man. So I would recommend to, pay less attention to those people. Although it's your business, dear friend. I mean, they are just too stupid also, If they were a little bit intelligent, oh, I'm okay, sometimes they might at least say something clever. So therefore, you might pay attention to their programs or whatever, interviews or stuff. But majority of them are just too stupid, too uneducated, including that Yulia Navalny, that her Western ruling class wants to present as a sort of leader of their opposition here in Russia. I mean, none of it makes sense, dear friend. That's what it is. You know. Yes, David King is commenting, would Ukrainian Nazis create troubles in Europe? For sure. 110%, dear friend. I'm afraid this is inevitable. The Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists and the terrorists gonna be very big problem for Europe in relatively short time. This is just, inevitable. That's what it is. Michael Kennedy is here. Hello, Mike. Ruth Greening is here. Hello, Ruth. And once again, hello, everyone, dear friends. And many thanks, sir. Natalie D is here. Many thanks for your attention, for your comments, sir, for discussion that you have with each other and with me. It's a great. And so Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, they think having degree makes them educated and intelligent. I agree with you, dear friends. You know what? I have several diplomas, right? And whenever I'm asked about my education, I never mentioned my papers from UK. I was studying in UK, right? I never mentioned that because to me, I'm proud to that I was a student of Tbilisi State University. It's a great institution, by the way. I have great respect to Tbilisi State University, and I hope, despite some difficulties that university had to face due to collapse of Soviet Union and difficult times after that, I hope one day this university will be in top 100. That would be a great result, by the way, right? And Tbilisi State University is like Moscow State University, by the way. It was main university in Georgia that I went and studied on Faculty of Journalism, right? So and yet again, these people, the so-called liberals, they are going in the West. Majority of them probably are buying these diplomas because they pay a lot, right? It's not cheap stuff, by the way, right? So they pay a lot, or maybe they've been sponsored by CIA or MI6 or whatever. They've been given these diplomas of Yale, Columbia, Sorbonne, or I don't know, Oxford, Cambridge, and so on. But in reality, just listen to their interviews. Majority of them are, really stupid. You just can see it, They might have 10 freaking diplomas from 10 top 10 Western universities, but they still are stupid, So the only question is, who gave them these papers, man, and why? That's how it is, man. So I agree with you absolutely, dear friends. Michael Kennedy is commenting, universities are run by intelligence agencies for the oligarchs and their agendas. I agree with you absolutely. Absolutely, dear friend. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, we are rebuilding Nalanda University in India as well as after 800 years. That's a history, isn't it? That's a history that probably, I don't know, maybe there is some other university somewhere, some schools that can say that their roots go this far in history, but that's that's great, and I can see in your comment that you are proud of this immense history, and that's how it should be, by the way. As probably you see that I was proud that I had the opportunity to study in Tbilisi State University, which is also, I mean, as I said, it's a main school in Georgia, right? There are many other universities also, by the way. I mean, good universities, but you know, I promote university that I went in, right? And it was and it is, to me personally, #1 university in Georgia, that Tbilisi State University. Although, dear friend, when it comes to history, you know, in Gelati, in Georgia, centuries ago, by the way, there was an academy, great school, great house of study. And there were such centers in Georgia also. But due to turbulence in Georgian history, you know. But yes, I mean, there are so many greater schools and traditions in this world, and India will lead the charge, because India is, I mean, one of the oldest civilizations in this world, isn't it? So, dear friends, if I may, it's already 1.5 hours almost that this live stream is going. We had a good chat, isn't it? This was a good chat. Thank you all for your comments, for this unique opportunity to exchange opinions in real time. Oh, Nidish Kumar is adding, Nalanda is built in 4th century BC and destroyed in 12th century AD. I mean, wow, that's quite something, isn't it? That's quite something. And I mean, India is history, fascinating civilization, isn't it? And so much is probably lost, unfortunately. So much knowledge, you know, about past, about these great old civilizations, but you know. So, dear friends, once again, thank you all for your attention, for your support. I love these talks, dear friends. I love this community chat, because you know, like old friends, you know, we are just chilling and having conversation on different topics. So, truly grateful for that. I wish you a nice day. And see you tomorrow, dear friends. Thank you all.